we did do the procurement process on this, so other state agencies could tack on and use it as well. So I think it'll help other agencies too that might want to use it to receive aerial photos or satellite photos. So our Surface Director, Joseph Stegmiller, is going to do a quick demo for us on that. So I'll hand it off to him.
Good morning, Governor Armstrong and board members. Bear with me. I am sharing my screen, but it's not coming up. So let me try it again.
I mean, I think another area we could use this for is, for example, last year I know Joseph had some outdated, we tried to get some more outdated lands of fire damage that we have. But this will give us a lot more opportunity to
show us on my computer.
Okay. Okay. Oh, okay.
There we go.
So this RFP was awarded to a company called Planet, and they offer almost daily aerial imagery that we can use. So the daily aerial imagery is about 3 meters per pixel. If you think of Google Earth is probably about 1 meter per pixel. So it's a little less quality, but we also get it on a daily basis. There's also a tasking option for this, where they do have satellites that provide a lot higher quality aerial imagery, down to probably about 0.5 meters per pixel, which would be higher quality than Google Earth. And with those, you have to task it, so you have to wait for the satellite to actually go over your area, and it has to wait for there's no cloud cover, so that might be a week or two. But this service, it has a website interface. It also has a module that integrates with our RT. So here, ArcGIS Pro desktop software with the integration with Planet. So I can, oh, is it still up?
I don't know why it's bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, sorry about that. I can search a specific tract of land. This is a tract in kind of middle of nowhere in Divide County. I can search for the aerial imagery, and it'll provide all the aerial imagery. It goes back to about 2016. Once you're in 2016, it's not daily, it's probably more like weekly. But for the past couple of years, it's been daily. So I can look back and almost every day I've got aerial imagery. Some days are going to be cloudy, so those aren't going to be quite useful. But for this particular tract, I wanted to show kind of how we're going to use it. So we issued a well pad back in December 2025. So if we go into the aerial imagery, January 5th, you can see that they just started to work on it. January 7th, they got it almost complete. Here's the 12th with no snow cover. And then this morning I downloaded the latest imagery, which was from yesterday. So this is that tract of land from yesterday. So, with the amount of land that we're managing, we can't be everywhere at once. So this is going to be a great tool in our toolbox to be able to, to look if there's any fire damage, or, if there's trespass, or when something was built.
Nice.
Yeah. With that, any questions?
All right.
Thank you.
Joseph. Okay, we'll move on to page 12 then, the minerals division, the oil and gas royalties. And if you look at that, we brought in.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm just going to wait until the slides catch up with this here.
Yeah, I quit sharing and I'm out of the meeting, so I think there's just a lag on this.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Can you see my screen?
No, we can still see
Really?
my screen.
Oh, what? No. Okay. I'm sharing. I'm not sure.
Okay, well, we'll let you get, I can walk through verbally here.
Sure.
$350 million oil and gas revenues through April of this, end of April this fiscal year. That compared to about $390 million last year. So trailing a little bit there. I do anticipate that gap to narrow now as we start to see the higher oil and gas revenue months come in with the higher prices. So, and then if we go to the next page, on page 13, you can see there that that black line at the end, that's the price. So we're just starting to see that price start to improve a little bit. And, the production has remained fairly consistent, but averaging about 451,000 barrels per month. That trust lands barrels. So
Did you have a question? I know it came up at the conference last week, and I was very encouraged to see that Continental sort of re-engaging in North Dakota. Just comments that I read, I wasn't able to get for that specific. That suggests that they're, regardless of the length of the activity, at least that they're seeing some long-term positive trends. Can you comment on what is leading to that optimism beyond just the current incursion in the Middle East? Was that discussed much, or what's the perspective of the staff on that? I was interested to hear those comments.
yeah, I mean, I'm not an oil and gas industry guy.
Yeah.
I actually, the governor would probably know this better than me, but from what I gleaned, I think they're just really optimistic about price being stabilized at a little higher level than previously.
Sure.
And then the enhanced oils. Yeah.
Everything they're doing is infield drilling, which means they already hold lease. They already probably have 2 or 3 wells on location, right? These spacing units, depending on where you're at, you have 1 or 2 benches in the Bakken, anywhere from 3 to 7 wells in the Three Forks.
Sure.
$60 oil. I mean, shale rock. If you IPO at 1,000 barrels of oil, 18 months later you're at 200 barrels of oil.
Right.
They don't have. I mean, they're all in this for the long term. But why would you drill well 4 well 5 well 6 in the well pad when you are hitting break even at your break even point? Sure. I mean, it was over dramatized to begin with. I mean, Continental wasn't pulling out. They're still the second largest producer, or the largest producer in North Dakota. They're just not going to drill new infield wells when they're going to IPO at $60 barrel oil where they're breaking even. So I think what Harold would probably say, and I'm not going to speak for him, is they see whatever happens after this, the stabilization of where they forecast the floor is high enough for they continue to. They were never leaving.
Right.
Like that. I mean, it was covered incorrectly. They just weren't going to continue drilling new wells.
Right.
When they could only break even their IPO. Yeah, so I think the positive note is the people who have forgotten more about this than any of us will know, at least they're forecasting at a higher baseline, regardless of what happens with the straight than $60.
Yeah, that was the most interesting takeaway that I saw, which is encouraging. Thank you.
All right. And then unclaimed property, we paid 718 claims, returning about $900,000 back to rightful owners, and we had about $1.6 million come in older reports. So we had the big push the prior month with all those checks we sent out, so kind of a little more average.
When do they re-up that? Are they going to do it just once a year?
No, we're going to continue to do it. Probably at least. I think quarterly might be a little bit too frequently, but I'd like to see it around 2 or 3 times a year.
Well, they did an initial test on it in December when they sent out just a couple thousand checks just to see.
There's just conference room system. Administrator.
Conference room is having
So things are.
connection issues.
Okay.
Well, it looks like we're up right now, so we'll continue on.
We got this recording going anyways.
Yep, we do. Okay, we'll move on to the investment section. We'll have our Chief Investment Officer, Frank Mihal, stop up and walk through that for us.
Thanks, Joe. Good morning, board. Pleasure to see you. We're on slide 15. That shows a snapshot of the portfolio as of April 30. You recall the March was the drawdown sell-off in the equity market. So as of the end of April, we bounced back to portfolio is at 9.1 billion in investable assets. On slide 16 shows the actual versus target weights. No big changes there from last meeting. Sitting overweight to public credit and underweight to some of the other private markets asset classes like infrastructure and private equity. And part of this update today will be trying to correct that with some rebalancing. On slide 17 shows the flash performance report for April. Both international and U.S. equities are continuing to just put up phenomenal one-year returns. All asset classes putting up positive returns. And the total portfolio, you can see there fiscal year to date, plus 11% and up 16% on the 1 year. So unprecedented shifts. Slide 18 shows the uncalled commitments. Only the shifts there. Continue to wait for capital calls to put that money to work in private equity. And then no major changes on that last slide. Waterfall. We can jump to slide 20. There's no action item today. This is more of an informational update with regard to rebalancing the portfolio. So planning to move money from the public credit into the infrastructure bucket. Our allocations with Blackstone Infrastructure and JP Morgan Infrastructure. This is target getting us from 7.5 to about 9.5 in the infrastructure allocation. That then the other plan is then to turn off the bond overlay program based on some of the market signals we're seeing with inflation creeping back up, and that'll bring the credit book down from 13 down to 9, which is closer to the 7.
That's pushing back 18.
Yeah.
For the uncalled commitments, how's that gap? How's it held, or what? How is it being work in the interim while it's uncalled? Is it mostly just sitting liquid? Is it in the previous existing investment strategy? Or just help me understand what that money's doing.
Yeah, it should go back to slide 16. And you look on where it says public credit in the graph.
Yep.
What that was it box and whiskers chart there shows is that center red dot is our target for public credit.
Yep.
The dark red dots on the outside are the ranges.
Right.
And then the blue dot is where we actually are. And so we're way overweight outside of our ranges in public fixed income. And
right.
that is where a lot of it is being held. And that's in the U.S. aggregate bond index.
Okay.
Just a fixed income index.
So that's where the cash is sitting right now, and that's where it'll be shifted from when we're able to call these and put them to work.
Yeah, that's our first source of capital funding to fund these capital calls. It's the most liquid, daily liquid.
Yeah.
But still invested in bonds, rather than just sitting in cash.
And we're actually using leverage, so our cash is below its 0% target rate. So that flash report.
Right.
So we're not, we learned our lesson years ago when they, in COVID, they tried to set up an opportunistic fund. So they liquidated a lot and went to a lot of cash. And then we missed some upside bounce backs with COVID, bounce back so fast. So I think we've quickly learned to don't do that. And instead, we usually try to wait, like if we're waiting for a private allocation, it'll be in its public equivalent. So that's just easier.
As a generalized strategy. Thank you.
So, jumping back to slide 20, yeah, it's just a quick summary of those rebalancing actions we plan to take, and then there's some supporting attachments there that show the impact on the infrastructure portfolio. So that would, on slide 22, you can see where we sit today with JP Morgan at close to 200. That would, increase it by 100 to 300 with them. It would take some time for them to call that capital as well. Could take up to 12 months, but it would help, move us closer to target at that point. And then on slide 28 shows the market monitor report that we've created with our bond overlay manager, NISA, and this shows us signals in terms of like the Fed actions, inflation, unemployment, and whether what direction it's moving in and whether to increase or decrease exposure. So we started seeing this shift towards more red flashing monitor reports with the inflation numbers creeping up, and so I think it's a good time to take off that overlay exposure.
With that JP Morgan infrastructure fund, were we able to get any fee discounts based off of volume of us as a state? I know we're in that both a little over 120 million in legacy fund, or not, 120 million in legacy fund, and then about another 120 million in pension funds combined between PFFR and PERS, but all into that JP Morgan infrastructure investments fund, that specific one. Were you able to get any fee discounts with that?
Yeah, they do have a $300 million break point, so
This will push us above that.
yeah, this will get us to 298 if it was deployed today, and then just from the yield income from it every quarter. But once we get our next quarter report, we'll hit that threshold and we'll get that fee break point.
Do you know what, like, how many basis points that break point is, or?
I think it was like nine basis points off the management fee.
Okay. Well, talking
Yeah.
300 million.
Yeah,
Okay.
So yeah, I guess that's it. And any other questions? Let's see, for next month, our next board meeting is going to be in July, right? We are working on a bond manager, underwriting a bond manager that is an active manager, right? Regarding that fixed income allocation we were just talking about in the U.S. aggregate index where we hold most of our bonds, that's passive. And so we're evaluating an active manager in that space right now that we would plan to bring to the July board meeting.
And I think big picture for this, it's, we have all these funds already in the portfolio, so we're not adding a new fund. This would be technically kind of under the discretion to rebalance. But we wanted to just bring it to the board. Sure we're aware and didn't have any questions before we did it because we haven't done it yet. And then it's the same with the bond overlay. We brought that to the board. I forget, was it like maybe
That was the mandate was approved back in the fall of 23. It wasn't activated right away. It was turned on. The exposure was turned on in the fall of 2024.
Okay.
So it's been
So
on
you're-
for about a year and a half.
Okay. And we let them, we told the board we would let you know if we made any changes to that. So again, just more of an awareness thing and just to see if you had any questions or concerns about these moves. So,
Yeah.
and I know Jen's on too from RVK. If there's any questions for Jen.
Jim, do you think I missed anything? She froze?
Nope, I'm not frozen. I think you provided a great summary, but I'm happy to answer any questions from any of the board members.
How are the Cubs doing?
Not well.
I don't
No.
know. I'm a Tigers fan. Probably as good as the Tigers. I think they've dropped 10 in a row.
Sure, you probably need to go and bless your namesake field.
I do.
So,
I do need to. That's what I need to do immediately.
well, I know that for like the JP Morgan one, I know this will push us close to that $300 million fee rate. If we add in what we have at SMB, we're well over 300 million already. It's just try to nickel a little bit. Call
Yeah,
Jamie Dimon and
we
say, hey,
do.
come on.
They do offer us a partnership agreement, based on the entire, relationship.
Blended as our all indie.gov. balance.
Okay, great. Thank you, Frank.
Thanks.
All right. The Tigers are 2-8 in their last 10 and the Cubs are 1-9.
Are the Mets?
Kind of cheer
I
louder
don't
over there.
wanna talk about that.
Knicks are in the finals. 1-2.
All right, item 5 there is Commissioner Annual Performance and Compensation Review. I probably will let Treasurer Gill handle that as chairing that committee.
Yeah, so we met a couple times, but we met just yesterday, kind of went through this as a committee. So just for the record for the sports refresher. So we kind of ad hoc put this committee together a couple years ago when we were going through and looking at, we did a whole compensation analysis to see where the agency was at. We'd hired CBIZ. We'd gotten some performance metrics based off of how our agency is versus other trust land agencies, other comparable positions within state agencies. That all influenced or informed the going into last legislative session when they sought some equity dollars to get some of the pays corrected for the agency. But we also thought that was a good vehicle for us to use to walk through with the commissioner to just kind of facilitate getting the surveys out for the board, for the staff, so that we could get those surveys back in and then have a group that would then make that recommendation. So we asked Joe to put together the summary slides that you have. So the KPI numbers, the key performance index numbers, I'll have Joe walk through those, but he put those together showing us kind of how the agency's done in a couple of different key areas that this board has focused on in the past in terms of performance in the agency flow up to the commissioner or impact the commissioner's performance. So he has that. And then we also have the slides that were put together from HRMS with the survey results from both board members and staff. Board member results were good. 60% participation in the votes in the survey, but all the results from the board were good. Staff overall good. Some areas of concern that came out. Same as last year. It's some stuff that we can work towards, and Joe knows it, in terms of communication with the team, making sure that everyone kind of is comfortable in the direction that everything is leading, and then also making sure that all the different divisions get touched by the commissioner and get some appropriate attention. Sometimes when we have things like the mineral royalty disputes that really take a lot of time and attention away from some of the other divisions, then that just creates a bit of a separation. And so just making sure that we remind and that Joe keeps his foot on our finger on the pulse in terms of touching base with all the divisions equally so that they're getting their proper attention. But otherwise, our group felt that there was nothing in these that would say that we should not authorize the commissioner to get the legislative 3% raise going forward for the next one. And so we do have a motion in the memorandum when we get to that, but we can have Joe walk through the KPIs and the survey results overall first before we get to there.
Sure, I can do that. If you look at page 35 of the packet. So these are the key performance indicators that the board established a couple of years back when the policy was put in place. Obviously, what we're all trying to do here is grow these funds and generate as much revenue for education and other institutions that we support. So that we look at the numbers, how we're doing. Again, we know where the Common Schools Trust Fund is. It's growing very nicely, up almost 3 billion since the start of my term, when it was about $5.9 billion. And that's on top of about $1 billion that's been sent out in distributions since the beginning of my term. We look at on the bottom right, we look at the investment returns. The policy says use the past fiscal year performance. So that would be the June 30 numbers. We also included the December 31 numbers, which are the last official returns we have that have been published by RDK. So, looking at the 1, 3, and 5 year on both of them are strong, especially if you look at the most recent report, December 31, where we were at least 0.5% above index on the 1 and 5 year. 3 year was just a little bit less than that, but so I think the investment returns have been very strong as well. If you go to the next page, 38, we have a couple slides on our unclaimed property program. You can see that the return rate has been trending up. It is a little bit bouncy, I guess, because it might depend on if we have a big one big claim or a couple big claims that can really, for example, if we have a large mineral claim, that can really kind of skew those numbers. But in general, I think we're trending in the right direction there. Holder reports, those are the businesses that would submit their funds to unclaimed property here in the Trust Lands Department. We had a really nice jump this past year, and I think that's a reflection of we had a new compliance officer that was authorized by the legislature, and we've done a lot more outreach and education working with businesses on trying to get them to submit the funds when they're supposed to. And then in the upper right, that chart is basically an overview of the whole unclaimed property program. And the green line is kind of what I think is, shows the most health of the program, and that's the number of claims paid. So that's the individual checks we're sending out, the number of them. And again, the blue bar there is a light blue bar is the dollar amount paid out, which can fluctuate again depending on size of the claims and everything. And that has trended up, but I think the good thing we want to see there is that green number that continues to go up at a higher rate. And that's again the number of individual checks sent out. Gallup engagement, bottom right. That's the one area that we talked about as the committee where we can try to get a little more from. We went down a little bit, 3.92 from 4.12. So we're just a little bit below the state overall there. Good news is we had 26 respondents versus 23. So we had a higher number of people responding there. So we talked about some of the things Treasurer Beal mentioned, some of the communication issues, and that I think the one thing we talked about was we're a small agency and we have basically 9 divisions. And so we have a lot of small divisions, and there's a lot of, you're working in a small agency, there's a lot of, just one thing can affect multiple different divisions. So for example, if you have a minerals issue, that could affect revenue compliance, minerals, it could affect surface, it could affect, obviously it affects accounting, the front office, people calling in on different things. So the one thing we talked about was just improving the communication between divisions. So we're doing some things as far as trying to promote that with up to like the working genius training that we talked about. Any questions on the KPIs? All right. And on my self-review, I'm not gonna go through that in detail because it's 4 pages, but I will hit a couple highlights. You know, again, first part of it is more talking about the numbers, and those are very strong. If we go to the next, I'll go to page 38, highlight a few things. One thing that I'm proud of and glad that we did was we put out the land board meeting video. So we created a YouTube webpage. I don't know how I think this video might have a few glitches in it, but
This might be an audio only.
yeah. But that is, I think, very good for promoting transparency and accountability. We did have a lot of good feedback from that from members of the legislature, even got a call out from in a news article that I read. And then the oil and gas renewals, we talked about this a little bit last month, but we're now that we have our minerals team fully built out and stable, we're really trying to do a better job to make sure all of our leases are producing properly. And if they're not, getting them back in the auction to generate revenue. And we estimated, reported this last month, that over the past year and a half, new bonus payments, that's generated about $55 million. The next two, talking about stakeholders and working interagency efforts. I mean, we're pulled into a lot of those things, whether it's, you know, working on there's a new BLM plan going on. You know, there's, we've worked with Game and Fish and Parks and Rec and MHA on recreational trails and boat docks. I talked about some of the things we do with the lignite, or that I've been doing with the lignite industry. So I think we get pulled into and try to help where we can there with a lot of those statewide and constituent initiatives. Going down to priorities for the next year, customer buy-in and use of the online portal electronic payment system. So we have that, it's built out, we've rolled it out. Now we're trying to educate, get all the constituents to use it and take advantage of it, especially with electronic payments, so they can hit their deadlines. We're rolling out a new claim property in-state audit program. We talked about that. That's been helping with the older reports. Continue to look at ways to diversify revenue, evaluating underperforming lands, and we're going to have budget planning and legislative session coming up. So that'll be a big priority for us, and we'll taking a lot of time. And continue to, you know, as the investment portfolio continues to become a larger and larger portion of the revenues, want to just make sure we continue to focus on that and build that out to be the best long-term portfolio that we can. And litigation management, we know there's been a lot of progress made there. We still have some work to do, and there might be new things that pop up too. So there, you know, whatever I tell people, what I tell people is whenever you're dealing with land and money, there's always legal issues. So I don't think that'll ever go away. That's always gonna be something we deal with. But we're going to try to manage it appropriately where we're not over litigating, but we're still doing what we need to do to defend states' rights and the revenue that we're trying to generate here. The last two items, you know, I kind of highlighted that I feel like we've got some really good stability now with the team. Got a good leadership team in place, and it allowed me to shift a little bit to focus more on longer term. These are perpetual funds for the state. So anything we can do to continue to be thinking out 10, 20, 30 years, I think is, I'll be able to hopefully focus more of my time on thinking real long term like that. And then going on to the last item there, obviously what support collaboration and resources will be essential to my success. I want to be continually aligned with the land board, and especially as we work into the legislative session and budget planning going forward here. And just, you know, as always, I'm open to taking a call if you ever have any concerns or things you want me to focus on differently or change. Please let me know. And then, you know, I think as we saw at the with this new satellite imagery we talked about, we're going to continue to look at new technology that we can roll out to continue to make what we do more efficient and effective and more transparent. So that is what I had, for my self-evaluation. I don't know, or do you want to take it from there?
Yeah, and so Governor, we can, everyone has the slides in front of them as part of their board packet, in terms of the survey results. Board member surveys, universally, all of the answers that were, or respondents, indicated that either the commissioner met, exceeded, or was outstanding in terms of expectations. So, everything was in the top half, from the board member survey standpoint. So we felt very positively about that. I think the highlights of the commissioner does a great job engaging with us as board members, making sure that we are up to date in communication, everything that we need, but also those that we hear from directly, which tends to be legislators or industry experts. Seems to be a very positive relationship there, and the commissioner's done a good job, really good job in those areas. The team member surveys, starting on page 64, were a little more mixed. Generally, they all still stayed good, and they were about the same score overall as last time. A couple more respondents than last time, so it's been a little more engagement in terms of this team member survey. But there are some areas where we got some responses that disagree or strongly disagree. But overall, it's still positive in the answers. But again, we know that there's some communication issues and just generally making sure that everyone feels like they're a part of the team issue. One of the downsides of surveys is we don't have specifics in terms of like what division what was feeling concerns, or which individual had that. But they're anonymous surveys, and that's totally fine. But that just makes it so it's, in terms of addressing it, we just know that the commissioner is going to need to take a broad brush and kind of work out with each division directly, just to make sure that they're feeling seen and heard. But overall, like the number 10 was the land commissioner seeks input from team members that appropriate. Of the 27 respondents, 20 of them were agree or strongly agree. And so, we do know that there's good effort being put forward there. And so we appreciate that. There were some comments that came with some of them. Most of them were very generic, good. A couple of them were a few grievances that we didn't include in the board packet in terms of the slides, but they are available if board members wants to see any other written comments that went with the survey results as well. But with that, the memorandum is on page 75, and I would make the motion to approve the increase in commissioner's salary by 3% as per the legislative directive. Or legislative appropriation, up to $212,180 beginning July 1, 2026.
Second.
Discussion.
I was part of the discussion with Treasurer Beadle. Molly Harrington also joined us. Really appreciated her input. Molly she's fantastic. And I think gave some good insight for Thomas and I think for Joe. To move forward, we talked about communication really for the most part of the meeting, and addressing some of the I don't even know how to phrase this, dissatisfaction of some folks on the team.
A couple of bumps in the road.
And Molly, I think, gave great insight. I think provided Joe different avenues of how to address that. But the overarching message I saw from the team report was Joe's doing a good job. They appreciate it. But room for improvement, certainly. And I think Molly's assistance and guidance will help address that in the upcoming year, and value Joe's guidance to all of us for each meeting and the preps and the that dashboard. I just am amazed every single meeting of the performance of the fund, and appreciate all the efforts Joe and his team and the leadership team that we get to interact with during these board meetings too. Has always been a pleasure. So happy to say Joe has earned certainly that 3% increase.
Yeah, I would echo that. It's not so different in this regard from any other public role. And Joe doesn't run for this with the voters, but it's the same kind of thing. He's got a leadership role in a government entity. It's diverse, it's large, there's a lot going on. So any of us who got surveys in our offices would have the same exact thing. That's the way it goes.
Oh, mine would be way worse.
But yeah, but when you look in here and you see that, I know I'm not arguing, I'm just echoing. Because I think it's really important that they hear, like, we have real faith in this team. You guys do a great job. And we've had some dicey things that have happened this year, and that's not easy to navigate. We appreciate that. And one of the most important things is credibility of information and just knowing, I mean, so you're not only intelligent, you're an honest person. And that means a lot because we don't get to spend every day with your team. We appreciate that and your leadership there. So the comfort level is high and coming in, and like I said, the information that we get is prepared well, it's accurate, and reflects your broad team as doing a really good job, and your leadership is really solid. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Just thanks to you guys. I've seen a lot of school superintendent, CEO evaluations, and the process isn't always good, but all this was laid out to look at how the team feels, how the board feels, have a self-evaluation with some, questions just from a process standpoint. This being my first time, it was easy to follow along. I think, check the big boxes on the things that we need to be understanding as a board to just add context, to our understanding of Joe's performance beyond what we're seeing here at board meeting. So thanks for your work and thanks for a process that I think is really good.
Yeah, and I just want to say, what sort I'm looking for. It's an interesting process to go through.
Sure.
Right?
It can be a little uncomfortable.
Because, like you said, whenever you send out a survey to 34 people that you're overseeing, there's always going to be a few that have a complaint or two. But, I'm open to it. It's a good process. I think we have a really good team put together. I think we've had really good success, good results. But I know I'm not perfect. And I know that we all have areas we can improve in and grow in. So if the board has any other feedback for me, like I said, I'm always willing to take that and try to improve where we can. So and I want to thank the board for your support and
For sure.
the working relationship that we have, because I believe it's been very, very good.
Keep clearing out lawsuits from us and generating more money for us.
Vote on this motion.
Roll call.
Secretary Hall.
Yes.
Superintendent Bachmeyer.
Yes.
Treasurer Beadle.
Yes.
Attorney General Wrigley.
Yes.
Governor Armstrong.
Yes.
Thank you.
And remember, when you fill out your surveys next year, remember this meeting, how short it is. All right, we have one last item here, the litigation report. The MHA case, we do have a trial scheduled for September 1st. There are some pretrial machinations going on, let's call it that. There might be a couple motions that will be flying around, but we'll deal with those. But as of now, the trial is still scheduled to start on September 1st. Like I said, pretrial things. And then on the quiet title action, we've had some really good discussion with the federal government, meaning that we're exchanging a lot of information. We're dealing with hundreds of different parcels along the two sections of the river that, the lake, the riverbed under the lake, and then the active part of the active river west of it. And we have had really good exchanging a lot of data with a lot of information with the federal government, trying to identify, do you agree with us that this is public domain land or not? Do you agree that this is acquired? Okay. And then we have, it just gets really complicated. So even in a couple areas where the federal government isn't claiming an interest, they maybe have an old lease on there for some reason. And then we have to go back to them and say, well, you're not claiming an interest, but why did you have an old lease on this? At some point you thought you owned it, right? So we're at the stage of where we're trying to go back and forth and really drill down to each, and it has to be a piece of parcel by parcel. Like I said, I don't know how many, but there's hundreds of them. Before to see if there's any that we can agree with the federal government on for moving to a potential trial. And so the next deadline for this is May 29th. That's going to get extended because we just need more time to work with them before we move forward on this. So I think they'll probably, I think I just heard this morning, they're looking at another 60-day extension on that, so. But any questions on the litigation update? All right, that's all I got.
See you guys in July.
Yes,
You don't have a June meeting.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for everything. Meeting's adjourned. You want to go to my office?
No, sure. That work.
You did break your hand.
Yeah. Okay. So what did he do? So
Patting himself.
Joe Biden patting himself on the back. It was like a Joe Biden. It was the same. It was one day before Julie broke hers, the same way.
Yeah, I just saw.
I kind of came to a stop.